Hello.
Hello, just jumping in.
I'm literally racing back down the street. I had to pick up my prescription before we started.
You're great.
Oh,
Good.
I was like, oh my gosh. Look, they had screwed it up and sent it all the way over to Henderson. So I had to wait for them to gather themselves together.
Oh.
So I'm just going to go on mute for like 2 more minutes so I pull in the driveway.
You're fabulous.
Okay, hon. Thank you.
Of course. Hello.
Hello there.
How's it going?
It's going.
Cassie.
Got about 3 more minutes and then I'll do the introduction.
Awesome. You can say hello. My daughter's here.
Hi, Cassie.
Hi.
Wonderful. Looking to see who all I see that's here that I know. And hello. Yay. Wonderful. And this is Dewey. So while we're getting ready to get started, if you haven't washed your hands already, let's go ahead and do that. And then the other thing that's always a good prep is to go ahead and hit the oven. So if you're not preheating already, you can go ahead and start doing that. It's 400 degrees.
Let me take my privacy off. I have where I don't have the access to the camera. Hold on one second.
Okay.
I guess I was trying to be very private.
You get to decide when you are. Makes sense.
Take it so I can access my camera.
I'm having fun getting to see the shining faces.
All right.
You stealing chocolate? Yes.
All right. How is everyone?
Good.
All right. Welcome to this amazing virtual youth cooking show event sponsored by the Las Vegas. My name is Kimberly. Stepping in for Ron. And we're so excited to be here this evening. We have our with William Silva.
You're echoing. We can't hear you.
Hey, Kimberly,
Yes.
this is Daryl. Do you have two devices on? Because when there's two devices on, you'll get an echo.
No, I don't have two devices. I'm actually trying to go into my driveway. So
Okay, because you got an echo.
think
Okay.
everyone needs to mute.
Yeah, I'm gonna mute everyone. That's what it is. Hold on. Mute. Is that better?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you all for joining us this evening. And I think we have someone going to do an introduction for the Williams Sonoma. And welcome Jana Dean and Charlotte Chappell, our chefs for tonight.
Hi, Kim. I'm Kenya from Williams, so I'm going to step in. Both Charla and Jana could not be here today, so I'm going to introduce Anne, which I'm really excited about because Anne is on my team, so we spent a lot of time together. So I know her personality is going to carry through way past this recipe, but I think it's going to be a really good recipe too. So I'm going to let Anne introduce herself and give her backstory. And then Sarah, I think your mic specifically is causing the feedback. Can you go on mute, please? Okay. Whenever you're ready.
Hi guys, I'm Anne. I started out with a mom that was an amazing cook and a fantastic gardener, but I never really learned to cook because I didn't bother her and she didn't insist that I learn, which is why I do it with you. So I, eventually figured out a few things. I was actually the dishwasher among my roommates because I didn't know how to cook. But I would, look through some cookbooks, PBS cooking shows on Saturday afternoons. And then I broke my ankle and was immobile and I had nothing else to do. And I ended up watching a massive amount of Food Network cooking classes. And that really kind of got me on the road to where I am now. So I'm actually really excited to be teaching because being able to see other people actually demonstrate was a really big deal for me. It really helped me figure things out, actually seeing it. And this recipe with the upside down pizza casserole was one of the first ones that I saw. And it really helped me kind of figure out how to improvise and adjust things a little bit based on what I want to do, what I wanted to be able to. So I'm excited to be able to share that. Before that, the previous only thing I really knew how to cook well was brownies, which is why we're doing a little brownie for dessert. And just a quick reminder, make sure everybody is on mute because we do have a bit of an echo and this could be a challenging evening if you're not actually on mute. But I'm coming in, my background besides being with Williams Sonoma, I'm also was a previously a Girl Scout, co-leader and service unit. And with the Girl Scout troop, we actually did a lot of cooking classes as well, including with Miss Beth Nelson, which I know some of you guys remember Beth. So I'm excited about this. Do you want me to go straight into the cooking right now, or is there anything else that needs to be taken care of first?
No, I think that's good. Go right on in.
Okay, so rock and roll. Like I said, this one is it's an upside down pizza. So you've got turkey sausage in this one that we're gonna do like a ground beef. But if you wanted to do ground beef, if you wanted to do pepperoni, if you wanted to skip that, you can do that. What we're making is the sauce, which if you ended up making a larger batch of it, you could actually throw it on pasta later if you wanted to. So make a big batch of it and make pizza, upside down pizza casserole one night and pasta another night, and you've only cooked once. That's kind of another fun thing. But we'll start working on that. If you haven't already washed your hands, go ahead and wash your hands. And if you haven't already, go ahead and start preheating your oven to 400 degrees. In about this size pan, your basic large casserole pan is what we're gonna be using. And let's start in. So Cassie, can you like feel it and see if it's hot? We've got the sausage here and we're just gonna try to break it apart. If you got one of the ones that you can do the casing on, I think I picked up the wrong kind. So the kind I've got right here, you can't take off the, what you can do for the others is like you remove the casing and you take it out and it kind of crumbles a little bit. But you could also do it in slices like a hot dog. Let me see if I can. Yeah, I'm not gonna be, I picked up the wrong kind. So this will be fun. But the whole idea is to start slicing up vegetables. Got a medium high heat on the skillet. And if you notice, as I make my fingers a little bit smaller as I start cutting things. We need a tablespoon of olive oil, or that oil, please. Yep, go for it. I don't know, is everybody cooking along or kind of watching this and then gonna do it later?
It looks like we have some people cooking.
Awesome.
I'll do it later.
I get it. Excellent.
We're cooking along.
Awesome.
I'm
So
cooking along for my little sister.
Say that again?
I'm cooking along for my little sister.
Oh, nice. So I'm testing the heat this way by keeping my hand several inches above it and seeing if it's starting to warm. It's not quite there yet. So I'm going to finish cooking, slicing some of these up. And like I said, you probably have one that's going to be a little bit more crumbly that you can just kind of remove the casings on, but it works either way. And a fun thing with this one is I liked this one because you can start adding, oh good, it's preheated. Start adding in whatever vegetables that would be kind of like pizza vegetables. So we've got onion, we've got green bell pepper, which is an amazing amount of vitamin C. And then we've got spinach, and spinach and tomato together are like Batman and Robin. They actually work better when they're together. It's really cool. You get more of the nutrients. Because I was doing meat, I'm gonna go ahead and wash my hands again. You want to put the meat in for us? And just kind of start sizzling and browning that. There we go. There you go. Awesome. That had meat on it, so I'm putting some veggies on this way. And bell pepper, it's a little bit sturdier than, it's a little bit heavier than like an onion. So it's gonna cook it for a little bit longer. So that's why I do this next. It's the same idea, just kind of cut and dice. And as always, if you don't like it, don't add it in, but give it a shot. The other thing you can always do is make it a smaller piece. Sometimes you kind of fool your brain if you use a smaller piece. Would you like to do that? Awesome. Let's get all the seeds out for us. And the dog has found where the sausage used to be, so he's in here snuffling around because he's chaos monkey. If you don't have garlic or onion, you can always use garlic or onion powder. But anytime you're using like a fresh onion, fresh garlic, fresh basil. Those are all actual greens. They're vegetables. We don't use a ton of them, like we don't have like a salad full of basil, because that would be kind of, quite frankly, would make you a little crazy. But it's putting vegetables in, so it's an awesome thing to do. Cassie's dicing up the bell pepper, which will go in next. And she's gonna thank me for the next step, because she doesn't like the mushrooms. So I'm gonna actually do that one in a separate pan and add it in separately. So if you have fights about that in your household, that's another thing you could do, is you can leave things a little on the side. And maybe you do the bravery bite. You guys, everybody know what the bravery bite is? Where you try something you haven't tried before, and you have to do it like more than once, because the first time you're mostly like thinking about, what is this? Do I like it? What is this?
What I noticed you're not mentioning is that I don't care for bell peppers or what do you call them, spinach or kale.
Yeah, all of the above. All right.
So that's it.
And let's pause for a second and let everyone catch up. I think Araya said that she needed help.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
No, it was okay. It was in the chat. What can we help with?
We're just adding it in right now.
Do I put the meat in the pan now?
Yes, please.
Are you able, maybe it'd be helpful if you maybe put your device up higher, so that it'll be higher up for you to have it when you're looking to add your ingredients in while they're cooking.
Can you guys see that?
So you won't, not you, so that, yeah, so that she could see, you know what I mean, looking as she's adding in the ingredients.
And it's sticking just a little bit, so I'm putting in a little bit more oil. And I'm also turning the temperature down just a teeny bit. And we're starting to add the bell pepper. And the finer you chop it, the smaller the bite is. So the more it kind of blends in, if you want to do it that way. All right, let's put that in. Look how pretty and green it gets too. It gets so bright. Beautiful.
You want bell pepper?
All of it, please. I know. And so also, if you had this ingredients just like this, you could also do sausage and sliced bell peppers and sliced onions and throw them on a sheet pan. And that would be just like another sheet pan meal, because sausage and peppers is another really just a basic good combination. All right, I'll need those, please. She's using the back of the knife so it doesn't dull the knife itself. And is everybody's meat starting to look a little bit brown?
I started my meat a little early, so it's taken a little bit, but it's getting there.
That's good. That's good though. When it browns a little bit, it's called the Maillard effect. We get real like ridiculous in talking about that, but that's an Alton Brown thing. Because again, half of my education was from TV shows. But the brown is actually really good. That's where you get a lot of good flavor, when it starts to kind of caramelize that way.
The sugars in whatever you're cooking start to caramelize and turn brown.
Yep,
Why caramel is called caramel.
as a matter of fact.
accidentally started my meat early.
It's okay. Make sure that the heat isn't too hot so it doesn't burn, and you're good.
We're good. We're good.
Wonderful. Do you have the bell pepper in now?
No, we
Okay.
don't can tell yet.
All right. That's the next step. She's making it really, really, really small bites because Cassie is not a huge fan of bell pepper, but that's a good sneak trick.
Cut it small enough if I disappear.
All right. We need to add that in, please. Excellent. Onion next. So if you haven't done the onion, now is a good time. And that's onion. You can start adding in the onion. And like I said, if you don't have onion with you, if you've got onion powder, we would just add that in like when we add the herbs in when we have the sauce itself. But if you have the actual vegetables, then that's a good thing.
Vegetables.
Okay, Connor, put yourself back
The
on mute.
vegetables are gonna be like the bell pepper, and now we're doing the onion. We're chopping up the onion to add it in. I'm gonna have you stir and I'm gonna chop real quick, okay?
You're gonna peel the onion.
Yeah. So I'm just peeling the onion right now. I'm gonna try to chop that up finally to throw that in. And you get to control how much onion you like. That's what I love most about cooking is you get to control how much.
You can go back.
Connor, mute yourself.
And as I cut the onion, you can see I curl my fingers under toe to heel with the knife until it gets too small, and then hack, 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 hack. You see? I'm adding the onion in now because my meat has gotten a little bit brown and the bell pepper has started to turn a bright, bright green. So it's a good time to get the onion in.
How's everybody doing? Want to do a check-in and see how everybody's doing?
Good.
Awesome.
Doing good?
Yeah.
All right, let me take a look. I see some master junior chefs going on here. Ooh, Araya, you are doing it. Nico, yes, awesome.
And I think the onion brings a lot of flavor, so I'm going to use most of the onion. This time I'm going to cut it differently because I'm bored.
I'm not gonna make sure it's full onion rings.
Well, no, because they're half of an onion as it is.
So is it a myth that when we're cutting onions a certain way that your eyes will tear? Is it a myth or is it truth?
I have two answers to that.
Okay, let's hear.
Well, I want to see if anybody else wants to say anything first.
Yeah. Does anyone want to give their comment? Is it a myth if you cut the onion a certain way, or if you, I think people have said if you put it in like cold water or a couple of different things that will make your eyes tear?
My big sister told me that if you put like a wet towel or like a wet napkin, because like the fumes in the onions are just looking for a water source, it will stop you from crying since your eyes are also another water source.
Do you think that to be true? What do you think?
Oh, that's interesting.
It's worked so far for me, but I've
Yeah.
never really was the type to cry over onions in the first place.
Right, right.
It depends, and I have been known to get my goggles out before. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
Anyone know how to wash their hands after you've handled onions so it doesn't smell bad?
Let's hear that.
Wash it with toothpaste.
You can use toothpaste. That's also good
When
for.
do we have to meet?
Toothpaste. Okay, that's a new one I've heard.
And we're gonna let this sit for just a second. Then need to constantly stir. We're gonna let it get a little bit of that browning.
I think someone asked when we add the meat.
Have to go golden.
It's already in there. So if you hadn't added your meat yet, make sure you add that in now. And then we've added bell pepper so far and some onions. And depending on the density of the vegetables, what other vegetables would you add right now if you were using them?
I would possibly, close your ears, shred a little carrot in there. It's gonna give a little bit of sweetness to it. I'm a fan of topping my pizza with arugula because I like the bitter of it. And my child just gave me a look.
I love arugula. I love arugula.
You can also use, like, just besides the tomato sauce, you can also use just tomatoes themselves. You can use little baby tomatoes or chop up a larger tomato or use a can of diced tomatoes. All of those things are awesome. And before I forget, so onions, if you have them in the refrigerator beforehand, I refrigerated these. If you put them in the refrigerator beforehand, it doesn't, the fumes don't get you as much either. I've got mushrooms. I've got sliced black olives. Let's see, what else would you put on the pizza? Does anybody want to put any pineapple in this?
No,
Jalapenos?
no. My mom does.
Okay, so maybe have that off on the side. You could do it that way. All right. Garlic. The garlic we're gonna wait to put in because that one burns really quick. When it burns, it gets bitter. So hold off on that one until we're almost ready to put the.
So we're making
So we're almost ready to put the sauce in.
We're adding carrots. We're adding carrots.
You're what?
Adding the carrots.
Add the spinach.
We need to add the spinach.
Add the spinach. Just
So if you've got fresh spinach, you can start to throw that in. If you've got frozen spinach, you can also just throw that in when we get to the tomatoes.
Spinach.
Mwah. And I was saying, you got the spinach and the tomatoes. There are compounds in both of those that help the nutrients in each one be absorbed better. So they're like superhero duo. They work together. Isn't that cool?
You said add the spinach?
No, someone else was. And if you want to, you can get there. So right now, what I'm looking at, let's see. Can you see that the onion is starting to look kind of clear or translucent, and the bell pepper is losing that bright green? That means they're both getting really soft, and that's a pretty good place to throw it in. So I'm gonna turn down the heat a little bit right now, so none of this burns. And like I said, I'm gonna do a few mushrooms in a slightly different pan, so we don't have any fights about it.
Wait, how do I get back in? Is it this one? This one?
Oh, I'm right here.
Dang.
Okay, so we're making the sauce. Okay. Pizza crust. Oh, we can add garlic powder.
So,
No, into this pizza crust.
In here?
yeah. You guys are jumping in. So there were like a couple of different ways of doing the pizza crust. How many of you guys did what? Who's doing what with their pizza crust? How are you handling it?
I'm adding
We cannot
the.
hear you.
No, Mom. We haven't done anything for the pizza crust.
Okay, that's good. You're not there just yet, but I want to know, are you going to do it with the Bisquick or with the flour and eggs, or did you get a refrigerated roll?
Flour and eggs.
Yeah. All right. Ooh, cauliflower. Nice.
Is the
Now
crust
what?
this little white bag here?
I'm using the
Yes, it is.
Biscuit.
Oh, okay.
biscuit.
All right. So, all right, we're ready to throw in some
I used
garlic.
flour and the eggs method, but I used the flour that came in the bag, the baggie.
Perfect. Perfect. All right. So, all right. All right. Give me just a little bit of room here. And we've got the garlic here, and I'm just gonna, if you've got a garlic press, go ahead and use that. I'm just gonna do a thin slice real quick. Garlic press. I know, I'm just showing different ways of doing it. You can do a thin slice. That's plenty of garlic, Kip. Thank you. All right. So mince or chop the garlic. I also will use, if you've got jarred garlic, I will also use that. But I'm going to add the garlic in now, and we're not going to give it a lot of time on the heat because that it burns really quickly. So just kind of throw that in there and start stirring that around a little bit. And then you've got your sauce. This is the part where we have sauteed all the meat and the vegetables, and we're going to add the tomato sauce.
Yes. How's everybody doing? Everybody doing good?
If you're doing the mushroom, go ahead and add those in directly in right now. Mushrooms are fun because they're just this great big sponge of flavor.
Well, we have a child who doesn't like the mushrooms in there also. So what are we to do with the mushrooms?
Set them off in another pan,
Uh-huh.
saute them, and add them to yours because you know how good they are.
Okay, thank you.
If she weren't watching, I'd probably put it in anyway. I would. It's sad but true.
I tried, but she's watching like a hawk, so.
Okay, fair enough. So the cans of sauce in. Will you grab the spinach?
Excuse me, did you add already the mushrooms?
So if you're doing the mushrooms in this, you can already add it in and saute it in. You can add it in now, or you can add it in a little bit later. I'm doing them off to the side because we have protesters in this household. So this way I can still get to have some mushrooms. And we did add the garlic in. We added in, what was it? 4 cloves. I may have done 5. The spinach is in the freezer there. And so at this point, we're now putting the sauce in, and the sauce is going to also help simmer. And it's going to cook and absorb those flavors.
How much sauce do you add? One cup.
And do we put in the flour and eggs?
That's the next part. That's the crust. We're not getting to that just yet. We're still working on the sauce. So we've got the chopped spinach.
Should we put the 1 can or the 2?
1 can or 2?
2 cans, both cans.
Okay.
All right. And you can see, I kind of measure a lot by eye. Because it's a really forgiving recipe. But this is if you've got the like frozen chopped spinach, you're adding that in, about 1/2 cup or so. Close that up and put that away. And that's cold, so it's going to need to kind of heat up some. And now is also the time for you to add in, there are 2 cans of tomato sauce to add in. So this basic tomato sauce.
Would you suggest that they do any seasoning?
Now is the time to add seasoning, exactly.
Okay.
So if you've got Italian seasoning, you can just use that all at once. Otherwise, basil and oregano. If you have fresh basil or fresh oregano, you can add that in. And again, that's like adding in vegetables. So 1 moment. Will you put in a tablespoon each of the basil and the oregano? That's a tablespoon. I meant teaspoon. 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 I know. I know.
Sorry, I have it behind. I have one question. Do you put in the green pepper, onion, and garlic and meat?
Yes, you got all that in there.
Okay.
It's all been sauteed up, and then you throw in the, if you wanted to do mushrooms, you can also saute that, or you can saute it off to the one side. And now we're adding the Italian seasonings. So if you have just mixed Italian seasonings, add that in, or you can do a teaspoon of oregano and a teaspoon of basil.
Oh, okay, thank you so much.
Of course. Stir that in. I'm going to also do salt and pepper. Until your heart says that's enough. With salt and pepper, you know what you like. And if you like it spicy, now's the time to add maybe a little bit of cayenne or chili pepper flakes. Wrong one, that one. First, but it's rock salt. Salt. Whatever you got. And so we're going to stir this. And now because this one, it just kind of needs to simmer a little bit, it can hang out for a while. So if you need your mushrooms to catch up, that's fine. If you put in fresh spinach and it needs to wilt down a little bit, we're just letting this cook for a little while. If you put in frozen, we're letting the heat come back up because we just put something cold in there. And then now is the time while this is simmering that we can start doing the flour and the egg and the crust. Thank you so much. Will you set this off to a side? And thank you. So there's never a bad time to add cayenne unless you're in this family. Excuse me here. So for the pizza crust, eggs, milk, flour, And then Parmesan cheese and salt and pepper, or garlic, cayenne, whatever you need to make it interesting. So I'm gonna start doing that. If you don't have basil, do you have any sort of Italian seasoning? Oregano is a really good one. Okay, so salt, pepper, it's still gonna be really good. It's just gonna miss a little bit of that. Let's see. Yeah, that works. Thyme would also be another good flavor. But it's really the onion and the garlic that's giving it the real oomph to this one. So maybe add perfect Italian seasoning, a little more garlic powder, or a little more onion if you've got that. All of those. Now I'm going to teach you one thing that I always do because I'm paranoid. We have to use eggs. I'm putting them into a small bowl, so if I screw it up and get shell in there, I only mix up one egg. So I'm doing the egg into the bowl. And the second egg. Washing my hands.
Just tasted some sauce and it was yummy.
Oh, I'm so glad. And like I said, this goes really well on just pasta itself. So I've got it simmering really low at the moment. 2 eggs, and now we're going to put in a cup of flour. Thank you. And 1 cup of milk. And this has no flavor in it. So we're going to start adding flavor to it by also adding salt and pepper. Again, until your heart says it's enough. If you like a little bit of spice to it, you can add cayenne. I'm a big fan of a lot of garlic, so I'm going to put garlic powder in.
Mommy, just proving you're not a vampire.
There we go. And I like the Parmesan cheese. Can you get a 1/4 of a cup?
What was the step before the milk?
Eggs,
Oh.
2 eggs, and a cup of flour, and a cup of milk.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right. And a little bit of Parmesan cheese to the crust, so it's going to make it a brown. It's also going to taste better, and just kind of stir it together. It's going to be really loose. How's everybody doing? Thumbs up?
I don't think we have any Parmesan.
Good.
I'm doing good.
I'm
Doing
letting
good.
Yeah, you just need like a little bit, so.
Kaylee, your mom said it was there, so just find it.
And I will also say, this is the point where I will grab, if I've ever had any pizza delivery in the last 2 years, I will grab those packets and I will throw that in there. Same with crushed red pepper. And if you're not asking for the Parmesan and the crushed red pepper when you're getting delivery, what are you doing? All right. If you're using black olives, now would be the time to stir them in. If you're not using black olives, or if you're the only one in the family that likes black olives, you set them off to the side. What else? What other things could you add to this? I've done it with pepperoni, just like sliced pepperoni, and you don't have to saute the saute like you would if it were sausage. You can just kind of stir that in. So I bet there's vegetarian pepperoni, isn't there? All right, so you could also try that. If you liked ground beef, that might also work with this. But if you've got everything in the sauce now that feels like the right thing for you, do you guys want to add, I mean, do some quality control right now. Taste it.
And I wanted to say, once we are finished preparing the pizza and it goes into the oven, we're going to have a brief word from Dr. Bennett Mitchell, who is a family medical specialist here in Las Vegas and a distinguished member of the 100 Black Men of Las Vegas. And so he's going to talk to us about health and proper diet and how we maintain our health and make sure that we eat well and balanced diets so that we live longer and we can have the small treats in life without going overboard. But after we assemble the pizza and it goes in the oven, we will have that word from him, just FYI.
So we're just about to start assembling.
And there we go.
All right, so
We have
if
a
you've already
question.
go ahead.
Our dough is super runny with that cup of milk.
Perfect.
Oh,
Perfect.
oh, okay.
Because we're gonna pour it over the top. Is it like this?
Yes.
See, I told you.
Yeah. Does it look like it's got to be wrong?
Yes.
Then it's right.
The question, it was yummy.
Oh, that was a really good question. Thank you for mentioning that.
Right,
thank
right. Yeah, like pancake batter. Yes, Kenya, like pancake batter. That's excellent.
So now what we're going to do is I'm going to tell you what we're going to do and then I'll show you. We're going to put the sauce there. We're going to put the cheese on top of it, all the different cheeses that you've got. And if you've got like little bits and pieces of cheese that you're not sure what to do with, now's a great time to throw that in there too. So sauce, cheese, we're going to pour that crust on top, which is why it's so thin, and then we'll start baking it. All right. This is where I try not to harm myself. So you take this and just pour it into your pan. Cassie's doing the little shooka.
A glass pan, don't do that.
I'm scraping every last delicious pie pin.
My mama took the pan off the stove.
That sounds smart. I'm not going to put the mushrooms in no matter how much I want to. You're welcome. So does everybody have the sauce in the pan?
Sauce is in the pan. Does everybody have sauce in the pan?
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
Awesome.
Let's go nuts with cheese. You want to do it? Sure. All right.
That's the person's long sleeves.
Well, all right. So you're sprinkling across the top. Sauce is in the pan. You're gonna want a nice layer in there because it's gooey and delicious.
So you'd say sprinkle until you can't see red?
That sounds about right. Beautiful. That's good. If you have the pity cheddar, or I've got a blend, throw that in too. So just all the cheese. The dog is now really interested because he wants his cheese tax.
Are we looking for a garnish on the top, or we're just putting it all in this layer?
You're putting all the cheese in on this layer itself. If you have just a smidgen for on top, that doesn't stink, but really this is the cheese layer, and then you've already got some Parmesan in the crust itself.
Okay, cool.
Where are you guys at?
We're putting the cheese on top of the sauce right now. But there was a question, Kim. The measured bags, is that straight up flour or is that Bisquick?
It was the flour.
Flour. Okay, perfect.
Yes.
All right, pick that up, please. So we've got the sauce, we've got the cheese.
And they were asking what temperature. I believe the oven should have been preheated to 400, correct?
That is correct. And now we're pouring the crust on top. And remember, the crust is that flour, egg, milk, salt and pepper, garlic for me, cayenne possibly for you, and Parmesan.
Okay, wait, how is she doing this? She's using a spoon.
So we're gonna pour it on top. Not helping. We're gonna pour it over on top, and it will spread out, but you're still gonna want to try to pour it kind of evenly across it, okay?
Kind of like you're icing a cake.
Yeah. And yes, I am rocking a bit.
You gotta pour it down here.
This is really cool.
Right.
And then you can do just a little shuka. It should look, can you see the, I don't know if you can quite tell. Can you see the layers? Got the sauce, you've got the cheese, and then you've got the crust on top.
Excellent.
So is everybody with? You ready to put it in the oven? Or do I need to wait for a little bit?
How are we guys on time?
We're good.
Fantastic.
Ours looks just like yours.
It's possible to tell me how much is the temperature for the micro?
400 for the oven.
400.
400. So everyone should like preheated the oven to 400.
Mine did 400.
All right.
Awesome.
So I'm about ready to put it in the oven, but I want to wait and make sure everybody's most people are about ready.
Okay, and then I will introduce Dr. Mitchell.
Do we put it in the oven?
Yes.
That's what we're checking on. We're looking to see if everybody's ready. You ready? Bum, bum, bum.
Everybody's good?
How long will it be cooked in the oven at 400?
To move the racks.
They're asking what the time is for the, after they put it in the oven for cooking.
Yes, please.
Let's go get back to the camera.
25 minutes.
You said 25 minutes?
Yes, or until it's brown on top, but 25 minutes.
25 minutes or brown on top.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So we'll take about 8 to 10 minutes, and I want to introduce Dr. Bennett Mitchell, who is a family medicine specialist, a graduate of North Carolina at Charlotte Medical School, in practice well over 20 years, and a distinguished member of 100 Black Men of Las Vegas. He's going to talk to us now about proper diet, health, and we are so honored to have him here tonight to discuss this with us. Thank you, Dr. Mitchell.
Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you perfectly.
Okay, thank you. I've been enjoying listening to the preparations here. And now I know why I am not going to be a chef. There's a lot of work involved in that. And I see we have in the audience a lot of junior chefs in the making. And it is really important that you learn to do this well and to eat properly, because the main topic I'm going to discuss this evening is childhood obesity. Let's talk about childhood obesity, which you need to know about. We're going to talk about define what is childhood obesity, how much of it is out there, what are the causes, the consequences, and what we can do about it. This is really important, and it all goes back to eating properly and a lot of other things. You need to know that greater than 40% of the population in the United States is considered obese. And obesity is one of the most important public health risks in the United States, resulting in a lot of other associated conditions. Obesity is defined as excess amount of fat as determined by the weight and height ratio, and it's called a BMI. And that starts when you're 2 years old. Every time you go in to see the doctor, you know, they do the vital signs. They check your temperature, your height, your weight, and they do that as a feedback to have an idea of how you're doing. And by checking your weight and your height, they come up with an assessment of whether you're underweight, in normal weight, overweight, or considered obese. And because we're having increased amounts of obesity, we've gone to 3 different classes of obesity to define a child's weight. 5% of the children in the United States are considered severely obese, and that's really significant. This increase in rate of obesity isn't affecting all children, but it's a little higher in Black and brown youths for a lot of various reasons. Between the age of 12 and 19, 7% of females are severely obese, and 9.7% of males are severely obese. Having severe obesity increases the cardiovascular risk, and it goes on into adulthood. So, in the United States, 1/3 of children and adolescents are either overweight or obese, and that's a significant health problem. Again, it is more common among Native Americans, African Americans, and Mexican Americans. Now, here's a really important point. A child's risk of obesity is 2 to 3 times higher if one parent has obesity. Listen to that and remember it. Another important point, which is more significant, if both parents are obese, a child is 15 times higher at risk for obesity. So those are percentages, those are pretty significant numbers. So if one parent is obese, 2 to 3 times higher. If both parents are obese, 15 times higher risk of being obese as an adult. Okay? During the COVID pandemic, we saw an increase in the amount of obesity across the board for everyone. So as I said, adults don't just wake up and find that they're obese. It started in childhood. And it is made worse by the age at onset of obesity. It's made worse if one or both parents are obese. An overweight kindergarten is 4 times likely to be obese in the 8th grade. A severely obese kindergartner has greater than 70% chance of remaining obese in 8th grade. Obesity at 5 years old is associated with a higher weight level or BMI into the adulthood. An obese 6-year-old with obese parents have a 50% chance of remaining obese into their adult life. An obese female, 80% will remain obese into adulthood, and 30% of males remains obese. So these are significant numbers, and it needs to be addressed as a child. So what are some of the causes? Sedentary lifestyle. We don't play as much as we used to, and the calories that we get from our foods are much higher than they have been in the past. We get more sugary, sweetened drinks and higher index of sugars in our foods. The portion sizes are much larger than they've been in the past. We spend a lot of time at the fast food places, which has a lot of carbs and a lot of sugar. We spend less time with the family during meals, so we eat more and talk less. Of course, there's decreased physical activity. The playtime is shortened, and much of that time that kids now spend is on computers. So they are not physically active as have been in the past. School meals are sometimes questionable for their nutritional value. One of the other causes you have to pay attention to is the amount of time a child spends watching television. As you increase the amount of time one watches TV, or especially if the television is in the child's room, there's going to be decreased physical activity. There decreased rate of burning the calories they have on board, and the appetite of a child is driven a lot by commercials rather than the drive by needing to eat. And kids who spend a lot of time watching television spends less time sleeping. Video games is also a significant issue. And results in irregular bedtimes. So other causes, sleep associated with shorter bedtimes and irregular sleep schedules. There are some medications that can affect obesity, but those are very minimal. Kids who have to be on seizure medications can see an increase in their weight, or if they have to be on steroids, but those are very, very small numbers. Genetic factors, as I mentioned, if one adult in the family, if one parent has obesity, or if both parents have obesity, it's going to affect the likelihood of that person becoming obese as well. Some of the consequences. What are the consequences of obesity? End up with adult-like health conditions even as a child. And that can include health conditions such as high blood pressure or hypertension. Children with obesity are 3 times more likely to have hypertension. Fortunately, if a child loses weight over time, that risk for hypertension decreases. Okay, another category is dyslipidemia, which is your lipids or cholesterol. That increases with the level of obesity. 50% of children with obesity have elevated cholesterol levels. Having obesity as a child affects the development of the heart. It results in larger hearts. It results in developing fatty streaks in the blood vessels, which later leads to, heart attacks, strokes, and a lot of other chronic conditions. Childhood obesity will contribute to 5 to 16% increase in cardiovascular disease by 20 35. So it's increasing over time. Diabetes, another consequence of obesity in childhood, is increasing in age ranges of 10 to 19 years old. Pre-diabetes, you may be hearing more about pre-diabetes now. That's when an A1C is greater than 5.7. It progresses to diabetes as high as 25% in children who have prediabetes and obesity. Adults with prediabetes and obesity have a 30% chance of progressing to diabetes in 3 years. So prediabetes is a signal and a warning that you must do something different than what you've been doing. You have metabolic syndrome. 10% of adolescents have metabolic syndrome. Having obesity can affect, especially in females, a condition called PCOS, which can affect their likelihood of being fertile adult females. Children can get fatty liver with obesity. 34% of children with obesity have fatty liver. Gallstones. You don't hear much of gallstones in children, but obesity is one of the reasons why children may have gallstones. The consequence of obesity in childhood can be orthopedic problems, resulting in distorted abnormalities with the hips and the knees. Very heavy people will have a knee deformity where the knees collapse inward, or they may bow outward. Another significant problem is with the lungs. 10% of children and adolescents with obesity have what is called sleep apnea. And that's, they don't breathe properly through the night. And as a result, their oxygen level is decreased. And that is pretty significant. That's usually what you see in older people who are obese, but children can have it as well. Other significant consequences, psychosocial. And that tends to increase with age and greatest in females compared to males. This leads to social isolation, disturbed peer relationships, poor self-esteem, distorted body images, anxiety, and depression. All of that can be affected by obesity in childhood and as an adolescent. And it is very significant. So what can you do about it? Understand the role of your genetics. If one or both parents have obesity, then that should be a signal that you're going to have to pay close attention to your child's development and that you need to modify what goes on in your home as it relates to your meals. Lifestyle modification needs to be addressed, needs to be increased physical activity. You know, when I was a kid, when we got out of school, the first thing we did was we changed in our play clothes and we went out and we played until the sun went down. Kids don't do that anymore. They go inside, they watch television, they play video games, and that physical activity is lost, which means that the calories they're putting in stays with them and they carry it around. Need to improve the diet. Your cooking show is helping with that. Need to increase the amount of fruits, vegetables, need to have more fish and chicken in your diet and less red fatty meats. Need to decrease fast foods and sugary drinks. You know, you go to a fast food place, they always want to supersize you or want to have you eat the meal, and then they don't want you to have a small size, they want a medium or large size, and they make it easy to do that by, you know, making it more attractive. Need to spend less time watching television and playing video games. You need physical activity. Probably need to increase the amount of sleep. I don't know how much sleep kids are getting these days because of their access to television and video games, but kids should generally have at least 10 hours of sleep at night, and adults on average should be getting about 7 hours of sleep. And of course, you need to learn to cook healthy food and proper portions, as you are learning on this show this evening. So those are the basic things I need to pass on to you. And I hope that some of it is helpful to you. Learn to cook and eat properly. You don't need to eat until you're full because there's always more food left over. All right, so are there any questions? There are no questions. I guess you've got more information than you wanted.
Doctor, can you explain overconsumption of sugar and candy to
Yes.
the brain, please? Because I have a daily challenge with my son who's sitting here listening. You know, he always wants to combat me on sweet.
Yes. Yes.
Thank
You know, sweets is can be sort of addictive. It goes to the brain center, and they're in the brain center. There are pleasure locations. Sweets hits into one of those locations, but it also, in a lot of kids, it activates them. So you have to be careful if you're going to have your kid have sweets in their diet. It is better to have sweets from fruits, okay? Better to have fruits than candy. Make that their sweets, fruit, which is healthier for you. But you know, the sugary drinks, they're loaded with carbohydrates, they're loaded with sugar, and all that's going to do is go into the system and not be needed because the activity is low, and it's going to be converted and stored as fat. Okay. One of the things I tell my patients is talk about the fuel that your body, food is fuel. Okay. Food is fuel. Now, everybody drives a car. You know what octane and what fuel needs to go in your car. If you have an economy car that's using regular fuel, you don't drive up to the tank and fill up with premium. Okay. The same thing applies to the body. We basically have now turned to a lot of carbs in our diets because it's fast, it's easy. In our lifestyles now, we need things that are fast and easy, and carbs fit right into that. And that's a part of why we're seeing so much obesity in our country, is we put too many carbs in our diet, and the carbs that we use are not at the proper octane level, if you know what I mean, as it relates to gas. We're putting in premium when all we need is low grade, okay? A lower grade fuel for the body would be fruits instead of candy, instead of cookies, instead of a lot of those other sweet things that we get. And certainly, you know, you go to McDonald's, you're going to get these slurpy, sugary drinks and everything else. And you get the carbs, which are bread, pasta, potato, rice, sweets, and sodas. That's more calories than you need. And all it does is convert into fat. And then you have to carry it around. And then it leads into adult obesity. And then it leads to a lot of chronic medical conditions that did not have to occur. But this needs to start in childhood. And it needs to be driven by what the parents choose to feed their kids. It needs to be healthier. Any other questions?
Are you accepting patients?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yes, I do. I see a lot of older people as well. And I have this conversation every day with my patients about the fuel that they're putting into their body. And I suggest to them, now, you don't do that to your car. Why are you doing it to yourself? You don't put the wrong fuel in your car, but you'll drive right up to McDonald's and load up and get the large drink, you'll get the large fries, you'll get the big burger, and off you go. And now you have about 3,000 calories in one meal. And that should have been your entire day. Actually, not even 3,000 calories for the amount of work that we do physically anymore. Okay.
I mentioned it in the beginning, but maybe if you could just give us an overview of your education and how long you've been a doctor.
Okay. I went to college at North Carolina A&T. I majored in biology, and I went to medical school at the University of North Carolina. Actually, I practiced more than 20. I practiced over 40 years. Okay, I practiced medicine over 40 years. And I still do it, and I still do it because I love it. That's what I enjoy doing. It gets to be more challenging all the time, but I still do it. Sarah Fuller.
There's a lot of static going on. What's that static?
I think it's Sarah Fuller.
Her device.
Are we done yet? Because I have to use
I'm done with my part.
Huh?
Your device.
Are we done yet? Like, are we done making stuff?
Sarah, could you please mute your Thank you.
There you go.
Okay.
I think I'm done with my part unless someone else has another question.
I think we're good. I think that was all of the questions. Thank you so much. So now we'll return.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. So now we'll return back to our chefs for the follow-up.
Hello. Can you clean this up? So we should have like about 3 or 4 more minutes left on the baking. And honestly, that's about as much time as it will take to make the brownies if you wanted to start putting the batter itself together. And then you just zap it in the microwave whenever you're ready after you've eaten. Like I said, one of the first things I ever learned to make was brownies. And this is nice because it's a much smaller amount. And so it makes it a little bit easier to keep it a little bit in check. The other thing that was, I did want to mention also is like we were doing with the sauce today, that's instead of using a jarred pasta sauce, you're doing so that you can add more good ingredients to it and you're not getting any of that, like a lot of the sugars that are added into jarred pasta sauce. So you can always make your own sauce from just tomato, like a can of tomato sauce, saute an onion, and then throw in any Italian seasoning, salt and pepper, and you're good to go. And it honestly usually tastes a lot better. So does everyone have their stuff for the brownies to be put together?
I believe they have the chocolate chips.
Okay. So let me start grabbing this stuff and bringing it over to here. So if you've got flour, you got just any kind of mug, and it's all tablespoons of stuff. So can you give me the tablespoon, please? They're over here. 1 tablespoon. First, we're going to do 2 tablespoons of flour. Can you get a fork for us to mix this? Yeah. Thank you. 2 tablespoons of flour. And then wipe this out. 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. Pinch of salt. And the reason why you put a little salt in, excuse me, is so that it takes away from too much sweetness on it. And then if you've got any cocoa powder, a tablespoon of that. While I grab the onion oven real quick, let me see.
Everyone checking on their upside down pizza?
Yeah, my timer just went off, so I'm gonna check on that real quick. So can you guys see?
Let's take a look.
Our timer's off.
So on this one, you can see, and you got to see it bubbling around here, and you can see it's brown. I'm touching it very, very lightly, and it's firm, so it's kind of cooked all the way through.
Right.
In the directions, I say that it always says to wait 5 minutes before slicing. I've never been able to do that up until now because we're doing the other things. I have always burned my mouth too.
No self-control?
It smells so good.
No
So
self-control?
Zero.
The zero?
Zero.
I have one question.
Yes.
Go ahead.
How many the cocoa powder?
One of the cocoa powder.
1 tablespoon or 2?
For the cocoa powder.
1
Now,
tablespoon of cocoa powder.
correct. And we'll mix that together, if you would please. Just kind of
I
stir
want
it
to make
together.
sure that everyone, as you're preparing, or if you prepare the dessert later on, we want to make sure that we have pictures of your pizza. Please take a picture. Of course, if you have no self-control, I think like we don't have self-control. I think we're probably going to take a slice out and put it on a plate and kind of display it for us and send us your pictures, a video of you enjoying the pizza.
All right, so we put in the flour, 2 tablespoons. We put in the brown sugar, 2 tablespoons, and we put in the cocoa powder, 1 tablespoon. Then just any kind of neutral oil. This says sunflower oil. I will never do corn oil because I'm allergic to corn and I just get really snotty. So I won't do that.
I'm going to put the email in the chat. Sorry to interrupt you. I'm going to put the email into the chat for you to send pictures, and we greatly appreciate that.
1 tablespoon.
How much was the oil?
1 tablespoon. That's the thing that's nice about this is it's all tablespoon measurements, except for the pinch of salt. So you got the oil, just a second. And then 2 tablespoons of whatever milk you use. Add that in.
How much milk was that?
2 tablespoons. You can stir that. And just kind of stir it till it looks all kind of smooth. Oh, I've got 10% battery. This will be amazing. And then you put in your chocolate chips. This is also, if you have, and I'm going to giggle about this, if you have leftover candy of any sort from Easter, Halloween, or Christmas, it's just chocolate. That's a good one thing to do as well, because it kind of melts. And then a tablespoon of chocolate chips. Thank you, dear. I just got a battery alert. My daughter's going to try to charge us up. Put all the batter stuff together. Can you see?
Awesome.
And then you're just gonna microwave it for 1 minute and then let it hang out for 30 seconds. So do however many of those your family is doing, or let it wait for a moment. But it comes together dangerously easily. And if you wanted to, like anything else, you can also start figuring out if you wanted to add a little cinnamon to it or a teeny tiny pinch of coffee, because I'm a coffee fiend. A little bit of cayenne sometimes, a little bit of hotness with that, a little bit of cayenne and cinnamon with it. Pecans and walnuts, absolutely. If you're using leftover candy, you can use like a small amount of like a little tiny Reese's. So you've got some peanut butter in there as well. All of those things. And then you just microwave it for a minute.
Excellent. Do you guys want to give us a visual of your pizzas? Don't forget to take pictures and send them in to us. We'd love to see them. As we're wrapping up, thank you so much. This is awesome.
I would love to hear. Oh, that looks gorgeous.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wow.
About the second time you make something, because the second time you make a recipe is when you tend to go nuts. I want to know if you decided to then add in like a shredded carrot, or if you wanted to add more spinach because you couldn't quite tell and you felt like it could deal with even more, or if you put in some chunky tomatoes in there.
Right.
Or if you decided to do a red bell pepper and a yellow bell pepper and a green bell pepper, just to be able to see the different colors.
Right.
Zucchini. Zucchini would also work beautifully.
A vegetable one would be awesome.
I have one question.
We're putting cayenne in ours.
Oh, tell me how that turns out. I hope you like that.
I know. It's like a Mexican chocolate, right?
Oh yeah, I love that.
How many times I need to put it in the microwave?
1 minute.
1 minute? Okay.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
I know. And then you need to wait for 30 seconds. That's honestly the hardest part.
We add everything into this?
Yeah, do you want to put it in?
We add chemicals.
We did.
All right, I saw a few of the pizzas, but can we see some more before we wrap up and finish up? Along with sending in your pictures or video. It's so awesome.
Yo, this looks so good.
Yeah.
I hope you love this. This really was one of the first recipes I started really figuring out.
Really?
And yeah.
It's a very simple one. It's good for, a nice, quick thing to put together. You could probably make the sauce ahead of time. So that's something to, for your meal prepping, right? So this is trying to be nice to all the good things that Dr. Mitchell said. So this would be like your cheat night for like a Friday or Saturday, leaving out, going to the fast food, preparing it in, adding more vegetables, right, Dr. Mitchell? Hey, and the vegetable one would be even better if you do it like a vegetarian one, adding in all the different vegetables. That would be cool.
It's great without any of the meat in it if you want to have it that way.
You could probably find smaller baking ones if you go to like maybe like a Home Goods and they have the smaller baking like ramekins that you could use, and you could make individual ones. Yeah, do a vegetable. You could probably substitute the milk when you make the pizza crust for the lactate free. So there's a lot of options, right? Uh-oh, look, 1 minute.
I know. And there's also, if you do the non-fat, if you just have this, a non-fat dried milk, and you make your milk that way, you can also take some of the dried milk together with the cocoa that you've got,
right,
and adjust the amount of sugar that you do it, and then you've made your own cocoa mix.
Right. Look, helping to make Dr. Mitchell feel better, we could probably use some carob chips or right? Turbinado sugar as opposed to white sugar. So I'm trying to keep the smile on his face because he's smiling. He's so happy to see the kids cooking, but I'm trying to make him smile even more. We're all the other healthy options, right? And then after the pizza, And the dessert, a nice 20-minute brisk walk around the block. Right, Dr.
20-minute walk
Ex-
while it's
Excellent.
baking, too.
Those are great suggestions.
Right? That's
Absolutely.
Nice parsnip chips are good.
Oh, they are
Yeah.
good, actually.
everything in moderation. We're trying.
Well, but if it's baking for 20 minutes, that's also an excellent time. You know, it's hanging out.
Yes.
That
Take a
chocolate
walk.
is very spicy.
Oh, that's so awesome. Yeah.
Is that the sauce? Did you save extra sauce?
Oh,
It's
yeah.
carrot juice.
Get out.
Look at Dr. Mitchell. Joy on his face.
That's a healthy choice.
Oh, good.
Joy on his face.
That has a natural sweetness to it. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I hope you guys love this.
Thank you so much. We so appreciate you. And thank you all for joining us this evening for this youth virtual cooking show. Stay tuned. I think we're having another installment next month. And we want to thank the 100 Black Men of Las Vegas and all of their hard work and just keeping the community engaged and caring about the children. That is their work. That's their mission. And so I think that it's extremely important for them to have that. Thank you so much. Everybody,
Thank you.
bon appetit.
Thank you. We appreciate you guys.
Like I said,
Thank you. Enjoy, guys.
Delicious. All right. Good night.
Good night.
Did you like the picture of our pizza?
Yes.
Wow.
Excellent. Thank you.
Upside down, so catch it on the top here. It's all.
Good night.
What you make on? He said, "What I make them with?" Yeah, like what's the bread? They gave us some flour and they told us to add. Some.
It's a time. Thank you very much. And that's on the time they can do. Do you want some of this in your bowl? Yeah. Tell me what all is in it.